So today's video is okay. So today's video Hello and welcome back to Santossuerte Healing. I'm your main bruja Al, and today I'm very excited for this video because it is an insightful interview. What does an insightful interview mean, you ask? Well, basically insightful interviews are where I get together with holistic healers, energy healers, we have herbalists, elders, farmers, activists within our communities, and I get to ask them some questions, get up and close and personal with them, really just seeing what their journey was like and what in their life made them get to where they are now, and what advice do they have for those that might be going through similar experiences. And I'm very excited for this interview. This interview is with Tina Rodriguez. She is an amazing sound healer. She's a massage therapist, a good friend of mine. I met her at my job. She's the sweetest person on earth. I have done many of Tina's sound healings. They're incredible. They're amazing. I was able to actually see how many parts of my soul, which we kind of talk about soul loss a little bit, but I actually was able to see how many parts of my soul were actually lost and how much susto I had actually experienced growing up. And I was able to help plant those seeds, plant those intentions of bringing all those pieces of my soul back together just through her sound healing meditation. She is a great person to work with. You can also visit her page, Manos de Oros, and look at all the other services that she offers. She will kind of speak about it in this interview. So I hope you guys really enjoy this video. Without any further ado, let's take you into the video. All right, just waiting for Tina to stop in and we'll get started. Oh, that's good. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Okay, there we go. I can hear you.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Yeah. Well, thank you for wanting to be a part of Insightful Interviews. I'm
Of
really
course.
excited for our time together.
Hmm.
Yeah, so go ahead and kind of give us an introduction on who you are, what do you do, your favorite color, and favorite word.
My name is Tina Rodriguez. Actually, my full name is Christina, but I've been going by Tina, Christina or Tina, either. Preferred pronoun, she. Um, Born and raised in San Antonio, Texas. One of 10 children. I'm the youngest of 10 children. What were my other questions? Sorry.
Just what is it that you do, your favorite color, and favorite word.
I am a Renaissance woman. I actually am a musician, a multi-instrumentalist, a filmmaker, actress, writer, director, and I would say my vocation is a multi-modality healer. I am a body worker, a sound healer, general intuitive, psychic medium, and Akashic Records consultant. My favorite color, it varies. For a long time, it's been many shades of blue, turquoise, hold on, let's see if I can do this. Where is it? Where's my couch? Oh, anyway, I have a teal couch. Where you go through the phase and it's like, why are my shoes and my backpack and everything is teal and now everything is purple or fuchsia.
I love it.
Interchanges, but I don't know, teal seems to be the mainstay color. Favorite word. For a long time, my favorite word, and it actually is still, so I went to a high school for students who wanted to eventually go into the medical field. It's called Health Careers High School in San Antonio.
Oh, wow.
And so, we had classes on medical terminology and learned a lot about, just all the different sides of Western medicine and borborygmus, Borborygmus was a favorite word, and borborygmus is actually when our stomach gurgles or rumbles. That is the word, borborygmus.
Oh my god!
I know.
I love that.
Makes me happy. That and sphygmomanometer.
What does that mean?
The blood pressure cuff.
Oh.
The cuff that they use to check your blood pressure is called a sphygmomanometer.
Wow, I feel like I've learned so much in
just 2 minutes.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Yeah. So, thank you. I love that you used Renaissance woman. I feel like I always like to tell people, I'm a bicentennial person. If like I can learn one thing, I want to master it and I want to learn as much as I can.
Yeah.
But I love that you used Renaissance woman. It just definitely feels a little bit more magical and a little bit more what's the word that I could say? I don't know. It seems very like ancient.
Yeah.
Wise. So
yeah, and also, just to encompass, because I don't just do one thing, or I definitely have a lot of things that I do, and when someone finds out something new that I do, it's like, what is it that what don't you do? I don't fly technically, maybe in my dreams, but yeah, I always liked the term because it felt just more encompassing.
Yeah, definitely.
All the things that I do.
I think one thing that really kind of like tickled my ear in your introduction was you said that you were a filmmaker, an actress, and did I hear like author and director in there as well?
Writer, yeah, I write, and I have several screenplays and just things that I've been developing over the years, and I don't know. I'm always wary of using the term like I'm an aspiring director, like something that I aspire to. Is like no, I mean I've had experience in directing things, and definitely something that I have put off to the side as I focus on my healing practice, but something I still intend to do. So, and film has just always been a big part of my life, since I was little, and I feel I guess. What I've learned over the years and in stepping away from acting in the film industry is like, well, why do I want to be a part of that still? And, our media, music and film, or, what we can present in that way is a powerful tool to be able to reach the masses and to teach. And what I've learned over the years in my own healing journey and the messages that I wish to impart, I would like to do so. In film and music. So, yeah.
What are some projects that you have either starred or directed in that we could probably check out?
Oh. Next question.
Okay. Well, we might circle back to that.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome. So I guess one of the ways that I'm starting these interviews is to kind of tell us what was home life like your childhood. Let's kind of go back to the very beginning.
Like I said, I'm the youngest of 10 children, and I have 5 brothers and 4 sisters. And when I was born, both of my parents, well, my mother had gone back to work. My mother is, now retired, registered nurse, and worked in psychiatric units in hospitals. My dad has always been a salesman, but, they were both, of course, 10 children, working a lot of the time. And so, had a lot of time with my siblings, and it was both. And people ask me, what it was like to grow up with so many siblings, and it's like, definitely have a lot of opportunities for collaboration and sharing inspiration, especially with film and music and dancing and all the things, drawing, whatever. And then also being amongst so many, and also feeling very different and not really knowing why, feeling by having experience of feeling very isolated and alone. And so retreating into my own imagination and just my own world to create a sense of safety and belonging. But I don't know, for the most part, I mean, everybody has their own struggles in childhood, and, could pinpoint certain traumas or experiences and all of that. But my adulthood definitely have been looking for the light and the opportunities that I had to grow and learn from my siblings. Um, and choosing to see the joyful aspects, like my sisters and I singing together. One of my oldest sister moved to New York when I was young, when I was like 4, and she was in musical theater, and so she would come home and she would bring songs for all of us, for us sisters, to learn together in harmony. And so that was always really a joyful thing over the holidays, to be able to sit and sing with my siblings. And we would call ourselves like the Mexican Von Trapp family, if you know The Sound of Music. Yeah, just and really into musicals and all of that. And so have a lot of fun, and still quoting lines from movies, or making different references. And we have our own uh, arsenal of inside jokes as a family. Uh, in terms of uh, like the healing arts and how I was influenced by that, growing up, my dad, his father, Valentin Rodriguez, was a healer in the Rio Grande Valley, and people would come to see him, and he wouldn't charge anything. And what they call a huesero, or hueso in Spanish, meaning bone. So people would come to him with their ailing bones, and he'd pop them back into place and give them massages or limpias or cleansings, and wouldn't charge anybody. My dad has shared an article with us recently of the high school or college, I think it might have been high school football team, like giving him an award or in gratitude for like helping the football team, like kind of get them back into playing shape. Which I thought was really, really awesome, that he was the one that they would go to like, yeah, help the athletes with their injuries and things like that. It was like, that's just awesome. But growing up, I suffered from a lot of neck and shoulder tension, like at a very young age. My mom used to say that I started having headaches when I was like 2 or something. And so my dad would help me with massage and give me cleansings, and yeah, just learned early on the benefits of massage and energy work, and would try to self heal. Putting my own hands on my head, or if anybody was sick, putting my hands on them. And so knew that I had a gift for that when I was really little, and then just kind of forgot about it along the way. And uh, I don't know. I think when you ask that question, what home life was like, had when I look back on it, definitely there was a lot of time where I was focused on other people and focused on what other people were doing, um, or how they responded to me. Um, and so there's a lot of attention focused on being loved and accepted and liked and embraced by everybody else, as opposed to seeing like, well, what about, like, how am I embracing me? So it took a lot of time to kind of rewire that. And as time went on, and of course going into different environments, once moving out of Catholic grade school into high school, where don't have to wear uniforms anymore, and you can express yourself a bit more, and can have different types of friends and not just the same people in the same classroom for 10 years or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, moving into high school definitely was a breath of fresh air, because I was able to express myself a bit more, and not feel so restricted. And yeah, little by little. And too, as siblings left the house, come high school, it was just me and my sister, who's just older than me. And so having, yeah, just more room to breathe and be myself. And that just kind of,
Turned into itself to where you're at
yeah,
now.
yeah, exactly.
I love that. I have a couple of questions. What's the first lesson that you learned in life? Because you lived with a bunch of siblings, so I'm pretty sure you had to share rooms and share a bathroom.
Oh
So
yeah.
I guess Yeah, like what was the first lesson that you had to learn of like, oh, this is how life actually kind of goes, living with this many people under one roof?
Oh, you know, that's a tough one because it's like, how does one distinguish at a young age what is a true lesson and what is more so like an entrained belief, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
Like among so many people and being the youngest, like learned in my interactions with them that like, you know, my opinion wasn't important because they were older and knew more or whatever it
Hmm.
was. That's not really the lesson.
Yeah.
I think it's growing out of that belief that uh, my voice, my opinion, my emotions, all of those things are important and valid and deserve to be heard.
Hmm.
Um, I don't. I didn't think so intently on the answer to this question. I'm sorry.
No, it is
I was like, well,
a-okay.
what? There's room for everybody.
I love that there is room for everybody. And I
Yeah,
think that's
even
just
in a
like,
packed house.
yeah. And I think for me, I grew up in a very like large Hispanic family where, my dad was the middle child from
Mm.
like seven children. So he had a bunch of brothers and like two sisters, I want to say. Yeah, he had. Um, and so I think that was a question I had asked him when I was younger, and he was just kind of like, I think the first thing he told me was to like always wash your socks. Like that was the first lesson he learned. He was like, I always washed my socks because they also lived out in the country, and he was
Yeah.
like, so that way I always had clean socks, and I never had to wait on like Annette doing it or Connie doing it or like Yogi doing it. So, um, yeah, I guess that was just like a question I always think of whenever I meet people that come from very large families.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then I think the next one is high school Tina. What was high school Tina like?
I went through many phases, and actually, it's been really interesting these days. I've been getting these really intense waves, like nostalgic waves of like certain scents and certain feelings that I had when watching a specific film or listening to some sort of music, or I don't know, just like all of a sudden I just get overwhelmed by that the high school Tina exactly. Um, yeah, it's been really strange and it's fleeting, but it's just definitely been bringing me back to it. And I grew up in a very devout uh, Catholic family and was pretty devoted to it. And then once I hit like 13, 14, was really struggling with people and people who claim to be Christ-like, and I'm just like, this just does not make sense. And then all of a sudden got this spark of inspiration. I think I was like at a half-price bookstore or something like that, and saw a book on witchcraft. And so there's like this sort of light turned on, and I never actually read the book, but I kept it hidden behind other books on my shelf, just kind of like had it there. And and then the movie The Craft came out, and just like was really interested in witchcraft and wondered why I was like starting to get drawn to it, and then fell into this sort of goth phase where I felt like I was a witch, and um just kind of was fantasizing about being a witch, but I was also wearing a lot of black clothing and doing my makeup just so, and then moved out of that into um I was thinking about it too. Like watching, I'd seen the movie Clueless, and then there was also Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which um, uh, their style in those movies like kind of inspired me to dress a specific way, and then it veered into sort of hippie, wearing a lot of vintage clothing
Ooh.
and yeah, just expressing myself in different ways, and wanted to be more involved in theater and things like that. And there was community theater. We didn't have it at our high school. Was involved in choir in high school. I despised, because I just grew up with it in grade school. You know, cliques of of friends and just like
Nice.
not really fitting in. And so I just kind of made a pact with myself that I wouldn't be a part of any particular group.
Mhm.
And chose to associate with all different types of people, and just letting everyone know, everyone deserves to have friends to be friends with, and like as opposed to just you know trying to go towards the popular kids or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like everybody has something to offer. And so I was kind of all over the place. I guess to answer your question, high school Tina was all over the place and still trying to find herself, but definitely, like I said, had more of an opportunity to express myself and not feel afraid of it, or just moving out of the fear of expressing myself. Yeah.
Just as you were talking about how you went from being like goth to, I think I don't really want to say it's like preppy, but it has like a prepness
No, it was
to
kind
it.
of preppy. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like going from goth to like into more color. And I feel like that's always the switch because it's like you've worn so much black that you have to start wearing other colors. And then it's like you
Right.
stick to one color and start incorporating the rainbow in. Um,
Hmm.
at least that's how it was for me. I like
Yeah.
wore black for so many years and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna wear white. And I wore white for like a year and then it's like, no, I'm gonna start incorporating other colors. But I just
Right.
kind of kept getting the sense of like a little caterpillar that's like turning into a butterfly. Because whenever you were saying how you started dressing a little bit more hippie-ish, and then you made a pact with yourself. So whenever you said that, I kind of got this image of like you curling yourself up in this little chrysalis, and you're telling yourself, this is how we are gonna be, and we're gonna show other people like the beauty of this, and then going throughout life and still knowing that you're gonna be finding more and more about yourself, but being open and accepting to that. It just kind of makes me feel like a butterfly
Hmm.
coming and then just like forever evolving and traveling, like
Yeah.
knowing where it needs to go. So I really love that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
um, so you grew up in San Antonio. For those that aren't too familiar with Texas, what area of San Antonio?
Um, it's funny. I used to look at the map of San Antonio, and it looks very much like a spider web, and like
It
looped highways or whatever. And when I would look at the map and I would stick my finger like right dead center, that's pretty much where we lived,
Oh,
like
wow.
right central San Antonio, and like not far from downtown, and um, not necessarily the best in public school districts nearby where I lived, and
Mhm.
so I ended up going to another district. But the school I went to was it's a magnet school, but it wasn't associated with any other high school. It was its own entity,
Oh, okay.
and two of my sisters had already gone there when I chose to apply. Um, it was either that or a Catholic all girls high school, and I was like, why would I do that to myself? So I was like, I'm just gonna go over here because it seems like the safer option. And screw uniforms. I'm over
Mhm.
that. Um, yeah, I'm really thankful that I chose health careers instead. And even though I didn't go into Western medicine, it definitely helped. It was a really good school. Really good quality education, and also I felt was pretty foundational in terms of just developing a greater interest in the body and just health in general. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's also great that it aligned up for you to go to the school that teaches you about Western medicine. And then your grandfather, who is a Wessel and is working on people's bones. And so it's like you've already kind of have some of that knowledge built into your DNA and then learning it from your dad. And now you're learning the scientifics of it. So it's nice to kind of see that domino effect fall into, where you're at now and the kind of body and energy work that you do with people.
Yeah.
Makes
Mhm.
you, yeah. I was like, it's literally like you were being trained for this moment.
Right. And just out of high school, I actually had the inspiration to go to massage school, but then for whatever reason didn't.
Mhm.
And then going to college, and got a degree in theater, which has always been an interest of mine to yeah, to perform. on stage. And then Texas State and San Marcos didn't really have. I'm not sure if they do now, but they didn't when I went there have much of a film program. So it was all, theater, stage theater related. Um, but oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I just really yeah, just yeah, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
It is okay. Did your school have a prom?
My high school?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How was prom?
Uh,
Did you go? Let me ask.
I did go to prom, and I loved my dress. It was a really pretty peach or like coral 1950s ball gown that I found.
Oh.
And I mean, high school was kind of weird. I mean, because I definitely wanted to be involved. I was like junior and senior class vice president, and
Wow.
tried to get involved in ways that I could, but definitely, felt still, having those feelings of like not being accepted by certain people, and just like, all right, get me the hell out of here, and like want to definitely move into another level of being able to feel free to express myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I did go to prom. It ended up I just had this memory of going to somebody's house, and my date and I were trying to make a joint out of an old cigarette, like trying to like remove the tobacco and like stuff weed in it, and it didn't really work out. And I don't know, it's just, again, certain parts of history sort of a blur.
Yeah, no, I definitely felt that.
But yeah, college definitely was, just the progression of things, just more and more like cracking the chrysalis and letting a little antenna poke out. But yeah, when I left home, when I left San Antonio and went to San Marcos, leaving home meant leaving the church, and letting the ground sort of drop out as far as spiritual foundation, and felt myself floundering a bit, and that it was okay for a little bit of time, and it definitely, I felt like I had more space to explore what that connection could be or what it meant to me. And I remember having a friend who had like some fairy cards or means of divination, and that being, I was like, oh, I like that feels good to me. And then one of the first classes I took in my freshman year was in the anthropology department. The class was called Magic, Ritual, and Religion, and it went through different phases in history, and different tribes, and different people in their religious practices, also going through some psychedelic studies, which was really interesting, and then also like myth and folklore, and it was just really fascinating. It's just like this whole other world that like I had no idea. And so I feel like it was that class that really kind of opened the door, like, oh my gosh, there's so much more than what I've been exposed to. And so yeah, I just let that be so, and just let myself find my own way. But yeah.
How'd you find out about this class? Did a friend recommend it to you? Did it just kind of pop?
It's funny. I think my brother David went to the same school, and he was also pretty involved. He was like student body president at when he went to Texas State. He actually motioned for the college to be named Texas State as opposed to Southwest Texas University.
Oh wow.
But yeah, I think he was the one that told me about that class, oddly, thinking maybe thought that would be something that I would be interested in. And because I was kind of late to the game, so I did apply to UT. or wanted to apply to UT, but I missed the deadline. That's what it was. So that's how I ended up at Texas State. It was kind of, I had applied to other schools out of state. I really wanted to get out of Texas. I really wanted to just get away from home and familiarity, but I ended up in San Marcos. But yeah, he was the one that recommended that class. But yeah, since I had just narrowly made the deadline for that, and was signing up for classes and things like that, and luckily that was available to me, and then getting basic curriculum out of the way. But yeah, it was a really really cool class and introduction to a world I'm so steeped in now.
Mm-hmm. Was there any specific part in that class that really kind of started calling to your soul a little bit? Like maybe when they were talking about rituals or different types. Mushrooms?
Yeah, and what's interesting is that coming to find psilocybin as a pretty incredible ally now.
Mm-hmm.
For me and my soul's journey. It's taught me a lot. It's taught me a lot about myself, and it's helped me heal so much. And I may have found out about it later on, but having that introduction to it, and the ritual use of it for expanding or moving to higher states of consciousness is really really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever partaken in a ritual for psilocybin mushrooms?
I have.
What was that like?
I've had, most of my experiences have been self-guided, but I have had some experiences with working with a medicine woman from Oaxaca in Mexico, and specific songs and prayers that were sung, and being in this guided space, and still to date one of the most powerful journeys I've ever had. Working with this woman, and she's no longer with us. Her name was Doña Julieta, and yeah, just helped me even greater connect to the ocean and the cetaceans that I work closely with in my healing work, and seeing other lifetimes in those realms, or in the ocean, as an ocean creature, as a mermaid. Yeah, just profound.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure what else to say about it, except that I was weeping for what felt like several hours. Just, yeah, I was the ocean, and I am just one big salty drop tear. Yeah.
Has the ocean always been a part of your life? Did your family visit the ocean, or was it?
And that was interesting too. And you ask about growing up, and I was pretty sheltered. Spent a lot of time at home. We did do some travel, but with so many kids, you know what I mean.
It's hard.
Yeah, very hard in general. I mean, but yeah, no, we didn't do camping trips. We didn't go to the beach. I did later on. One of my cousins, or my aunt and uncle had access to a place in Port Aransas, and so in the summers, we would go to Port Aransas, and that was like the extent of ocean time. But there wasn't really a deep connection or anything until much later, like really until after I graduated college. And that's really when, like, towards the end of my college career, and once I left, that's when things really started to come to a head as far as my own healing process, and awakening, if you will. Yeah, that's when things just kind of blast open.
Hmm.
Um, but it wasn't until after college that I really um, really started to connect with nature um, even more, and starting to have the high level of communication that I have now.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Okay, so towards the end of college is when would you say that's when your awakening process kind of initially started beginning, like slowly but surely?
Yeah, it was last year that I came to the awareness that, living in San Marcos, that river is one of the oldest headwaters in the world, over 2 million years old. And I was in a group of women last year, and we were talking about the waters, and the waters being representative of the divine feminine and the emotions. And it was at the beginning of college that it hit me that I was actually pretty severely depressed, and had been chronically depressed my whole life.
Mhm.
And it was kind of came to a head and just kind of stayed there until finally, it popped open. But it took my whole college career to like almost like waves crashing up against a rock to erode and then finally crack it open. That I have the river to thank for that, because it was,
Mhm.
it was right there. You skip class and you go to the river. Um, but it really it hit me. It's like, oh, that's why.
Mhm.
Oh wow, okay. It made sense that it definitely was a, though I didn't acknowledge it at the time. Of course, the river is so beautiful, and you have gratitude for it, but it didn't really occur to me until much later that was likely a big part of how and why I was able to open up finally, and start to dig into why it was I was suffering from depression and anxiety. And yeah, it was. So I began college in 2001, and it was around 2004 that things really um, hit a hard place uh, in that, and depression and anxiety, and being diagnosed ADD, and been, yeah, given the specific diagnoses, and then the psychiatrist trying to give me medication, and trying one for ADD in order to keep focus, and then that just completely disrupting my system and making me very sick, and realizing that there has to be another way, and the doctor's not really having any answers, and so literally taking my health into my own hands. And it was at that time, 2005, that I met uh, one of my friends was dating a woman who, they're now married and have children and all of that, but she was a Reiki master and a Buddhist, and so she and I like had a lot of really interesting conversations, and she immediately recognized that I had a healing gift, and talking to her about my early years, and oh yeah, I used to like Reiki myself all the time,
Mhm.
and then having my first experience with Reiki with her, and the I was surprised at my receptivity to it, but also really intrigued at like what happened on that table, and was like, yes, I want to learn. I want to like tap into this. I want to see what opens up as a result, because obviously something's stuck here and I need help. So how can I at least learn to help myself? And so started working on myself consistently with Reiki, and yeah, I graduated in December of 2005 from college. Was attuned in beginning of 2006. So it was, yeah, it was like when I graduated. Um, but that's the gradual opening that led me to that point, and then
Mhm.
then turns into this massive snowball, over the next 15 years. Um, yeah, I was going through deep cleansing of my diet, of yeah, so many things, and then more starting to come to a head, or come to awareness through Reiki. And then finally, once graduating and going back home to San Antonio and getting my massage license, and it's just, yeah, the finding the teachers, or the teachers finding me, to be able to start doing the deeper dives into the what and why, there's imbalance in my body and in my life. And so, yeah, I would say it was just around the end of college that, yeah, everything started to crack open.
Mhm. So, did you continue to learn Reiki from this woman, or?
I got up to the level 2,
Mhm.
and then she ended up moving away, and then never got around to doing a master attunement.
Mhm.
But other modalities had already come into my life, and just the consistent practice of those things, and may choose to go through that process again to get a like master attunement to Reiki. I think that would be still a good idea.
Mhm.
Though what I ended up finding in sound healing was that the sound was really an expediting force to clearing energy. And so
Mhm.
though Reiki is still really powerful and potent, for me, the sound was like sort of the next level of that.
Mhm.
Um, mhm.
And for those that don't quite know what Reiki is, what would you describe Reiki as?
Well, the definition of Reiki, so in Japanese, Rei being universal or life force, and Ki, like Chi, is energy. So universal life force energy, and everyone is connected to this life force energy. I believe that everybody can tune into and channel this energy and use it for healing, and intention, being the main point in healing in general. If you have the positive intention, being able to use one's vessel to be able to transmit healing energy.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. I There was like a point in time where I was practicing Reiki with a woman that actually used to work with me. I want to say this was back in like 2017, and I had gotten my first attunement done, and then she moved away as well.
Hmm.
And it was just one of those things that I would practice on like myself and my cat, because I had just
Hmm.
adopted a cat, and
Yeah.
I was like researching, and she was like, yeah, definitely do it on your cat, especially if like he's anxious.
Right.
And it's very, very powerful. Sometimes I feel like for whenever I have like energy in one of my centers that is blocked, if it's like in my back, I often use Reiki to kind of help clear that. And then
Hmm.
I do agree with you about sound kind of just being an amplifier for
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how did you get introduced into sound healing?
Um, you know, I've been a singer my whole life, and we I would assume that most people have had the experience of, if in a funky mood or something, and then their favorite song comes on, and like how quickly the energy shifts.
Yeah.
And so the concept definitely made sense, but it was really intuitively in a Reiki session. I was working on someone, and I remember my hands hovering over their solar plexus or their belly, and the energy just feeling kind of stuck. And I just felt like I was there for forever and nothing was happening. And I'm like, okay, patience, come on, what gives? And then all of a sudden I heard, use your voice. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And in my mind, or, having read that there's a tone that corresponds to each of the energy centers in the body, but not knowing what it sounded like off the top of my head, is like, okay, so solar plexus or stomach, that area would be E. What I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know what that sounds like. So developed an affirmation right then and there, and I still use it to this day, is whatever sound comes out of my mouth is the sound that needs to be heard for the highest good in health and healing of whomever I'm working on.
Mm-hmm.
And chose to just trust, and made a tone, whatever the sound was at the time. And I don't necessarily, I feel more than I see, but in that moment I saw light rings of vibration coming out of my mouth.
Ooh.
And and the energy in that person's stomach just blast open and was clear, and I was like, oh my gosh. What just happened? And so from that point I was like, oh man, okay. So it was just kind of an experiment
Mm.
from that point until I met one of my teachers in sound healing, who lives here in Austin. His name is Paul Hubbard, and definitely had more knowledge on how to work with the chakra system and using sound, what he calls holographic sound, with healing multidimensionally through sound. But when I met him, I was like, "You're doing what I'm doing. You just know more. So let me pick your brain." And so I took his certification course, and it was after that, and that happened in early 2011, that things really blast open and everything became sound and vibration. Was able to see everything as energy and frequency,
Mm-hmm.
and address it with that perspective. But yeah, for the first few years, I would say from '06 or '07 to 2000, late 2010, 2011, it was really just me toning at people and seeing what happened as a result. You or just discovering the how my voice could shift and move energy. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, again, with the intention, setting the intention for the highest good, um, highest outcome, you know.
Do you
Yeah.
ever, sorry, but do you ever get songs like channeled through you? Like, let's say you're walking in a park, and then do you ever just start hearing a song in your head and you're like, oh,
All the time. Yeah, all the time.
oh, I love
And it's
that.
yeah, it's awesome. And I find myself, yeah, recording a lot, whenever, like, thankfully for phones and voice memos,
Oh, yeah.
be able to capture certain melodies and things that come. um and that's a beautiful thing too with sound healing. That is, it's just really taught me the deep art of listening.
Mm-hmm.
um uh yeah, because so much has come to me intuitively in that way.
Mm-hmm. For people that feel like sound healing would definitely be a part of a healing process for them in their own journey, or even to practice, what are some things that they should be aware of in like moving into that path of healing?
Hmm. For so many years, I just used my own voice, and something that we all have and can carry with us. And a friend texted me this morning, actually, because she had been she'd been struggling with her own voice and singing, and had for her whole life felt like she couldn't sing, and so she wouldn't, and definitely wanted to try to expand and be able to help nurture that gift, and break apart the belief that she couldn't sing. And we'd run into each other randomly at Burning Man last year, and she's an incredible beatboxer. And yeah, we both just dropped our bikes down. She started beatboxing, and I started singing along with her. But as she tried to sing, she had that moment of like not feeling like she could. And I told her, just remember, or to set the intention that whatever sound comes out of your mouth is the sound that needs to be heard, right? For the highest good and health and healing for yourself, for whoever's present, that whatever sound comes out of your mouth is medicine. And she said it's just like that really stuck with her, and it's just something that she's been just really moving with as she grows on her sound journey, or learning how to sing better. And I would invite anyone who is looking into sound healing. We can find external instruments, and that's all really wonderful. But an invitation to really tune into one's own voice and the healing capacity of one's own voice. Even like a simple humming. I forget where I'd heard it, that the hum is like an internal massage. Um, And you just feel that vibration through your whole body, and just playing around with one's own voice, and to not forget that this is something you can carry with you everywhere. And yeah, just by having the pure heart's intention, yeah, an invitation to play, that it oftentimes thinking that our voice needs to sound a specific way in order for it to be beneficial. And yeah, that we have the medicine right here. We have it right here.
Yeah. I remember a while back reading that everyone is born with the voice to sing. And it doesn't matter if you didn't train your voice from the very beginning, you can always train your voice to be the way that you want it to sound. And that's something that, because I love singing, but I've always been told, like, oh, you're terrible and you suck. So that did make me feel like, oh, I can't sing. And, even if it was a song that I really loved, I would like mouth the words, but would make sure like not a peep came out of my mouth. And then I honestly want to say it was probably after the first time I had experienced one of your group sound healing meditations that I really started feeling I had swallowed a jawbreaker and it was like coming out of my mouth.
Whoa.
And ever since then, I've been singing. Like, even if someone like turns the music up and they're like, oh, I really don't want to hear you, or, I've kind of started learning how to tune people out, because it's like, no, like if this is getting me excited and if I feel that energy, it's like, why would I want to hold that in?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. What other healing modalities do you offer?
I was thinking about it. I was like, early on, right around the same time that I was attuned to Reiki, I also a book fell off a shelf and hit me in the head, and one that you are familiar with,
Yes.
Woman Who Glows in the Dark, by Elena Avila, she was also a registered nurse, but also a curandera, an Aztec medicine tradition. And like I said, when leaving home and was kind of floundering spiritually and didn't really know where to plant my feet in that regard, that book changed my life, because it helped me get a deeper understanding and perspective of my own roots, my heritage, being part Aztec on both sides of my family, and the traditions that are virtually lost in my family anyway. Not lost in its entirety, but at the same time, it's something that I feel it's up to us to preserve. And just she helped bring me back to the earth. She helped me bring me back to my connection to God, really, and in a way that felt good to me. And in that, I felt like I was able to truly start digging into old childhood wounds, to releasing the old belief systems. And so she had this way of working that really incorporated the knowledge that she had in psychology, psychiatry, since she too, like my mother, was a psychiatric nurse, and dealing with people who suffered from pretty severe soul trauma, but were not being seen fully in the Western environment. And being able to create a space for people to truly be seen and heard, and for their wounds to be acknowledged. But in that, what she really taught me was taking responsibility for my pain, because it's like I could have a traumatic experience from age 4, 6, whatever. But if I continue to look back on it and continue to relive that pain as opposed to process and let it go, then it's my choice that I'm making to hold on to the pain, which would inevitably cause dis-ease, which is what I was experiencing, because I didn't have any reference on how to truly let it go. And she taught me how to do that. So I would always say that she taught me the art of letting go. Because when we, again, set an intention, and in this case, in working with her, ritualizing it, like really creating a space to, or create a ceremony around it, you know, the talking out, finding the root cause to a specific wound or imbalance or whatever, setting the intention to release it, actually going through an entire process, or what to say, a cleansing, limpia, of releasing it. And she taught me so much about soul loss. I remember one of the first questions she asked was, when was the first time you feel you experienced susto, or fright? So when the soul is frightened or traumatized, the soul fragments into pieces, and that's exactly how I felt, and it made so much sense to me. It's just like, I'm not all here. Oh my goodness, there's parts of me all over the place. There's a part of me over there, and at 4 years old, and then you know, again with the snowball effect, you know, starting to have other timeline experiences, like not necessarily in this body, but in another time and space. And realizing that, like, oh man, I'm just like one just broken glass all over the place. And so, but, you know, creating the safe container to start to put myself back together. And so when one makes room by releasing that old energy, the old trauma or experience, whatever it is, making room for that part, that wounded part, to return, that part of the soul to reintegrate. And so for some time, I definitely, I practiced in the way that she taught me, you know, traditional limpias. And I still use that as a foundation for the work that I do. I just don't necessarily do it in the traditional fashion in which I learned from her, you know, wearing a particular garb, or, you know, holding the ritual space in the way that I learned in the Aztec tradition. I've kind of create an amalgamation of things, and there is the air and the presence of her and the work that I learned from her. Yeah, in pretty much everything that I do. So, you know, if somebody did want a limpia and they wanted me to use an egg to help move the energy, you know, I'm still able to do that. Huevos are helpful, and a great way of, you know, having the visual component of what is encapsulating and releasing the energy. But Reiki, sound healing, and then, as I was talking about, the reintegration of soul parts that may not just be from this lifetime, but from other lifetimes. Around the same time that I learned the holographic sound healing modality, I was also attuned to, or learned how to access the Akashic Records. And for those who don't know or have heard about the Akashic Records, the word Akasha in Sanskrit means ether, or records in the ethers. So if you would look at the history of the universe, and if the history of the universe had a library, that's the Akashic Records. And that library is in the ethers, so not necessarily a physical book, though you could find physical books that talk about the Akashic Records and may be able to give insight on how to access them. I have a teacher, her name is Jody Lovoi, and she attuned me to learning how to open my own records, and I worked in my own records for a year before I learned how to open the records of other people. And in the Akashic Records, there is no time. It's past, present, future, become now. All timelines are parallel and accessible. All realms, all dimensions. So not just this human realm, but looking into interdimensional and extraterrestrial, all realms, all dimensions. And so just like blew my mind. Really, just like there's so much, again, so much more that I don't know, and but can continue to discover about myself. And you know, when still having questions of like why I was still suffering from depression, and still you know, had certain beliefs and wounds that remained present, even though I, just did so much work, but I was only working with this lifetime, then started to explore the possibility of there being tethers in other timelines and other traumas from other timelines that were influencing this now present moment. And so in my own journey and self-exploration and finding all the pieces of myself, and I've actually traveled the world to go to those specific places where certain traumas and experiences happened. And I'm so thankful to have had the intuition and the ability to be able to travel to, say, Rome or Peru or Egypt, or even within the United States, traveling to specific places where certain things happen to my soul, and actually being able to go and it's like almost like going to the earth and like picking up a rock and was like, all right, this belongs to me. and being able to piece myself back together in that way, and in my own journey being able to have the wisdom to be able to help others through a similar process.
Mm-hmm.
And as my teacher would say, there really isn't anything that cannot be found and healed within the records. So, and I have definitely found that to be true.
I feel like I've entered the Akashic Records mostly in my sleep.
Mm.
And it's always, I just feel like every time I enter, it's so chaotic and busy, not because there are like people there, but just because of how much information is like flying around.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me feel like I'm in a Harry Potter almost, because I always see this like giant library that like goes on and there's no bottom. It's just everywhere.
So you're in the Universal Public Library. So if you were to like say go downtown Austin and go into the public library and like, oh my God, or just there's so much. And so when learning how to open your own records, it gets specific because it's just your area, your specific hall of records, and you're not dealing with everybody else's energy. So it becomes a bit easier to navigate. And so though everyone has, again, like Reiki, everybody has the ability to go to the public library. But when you're wanting to find information about yourself, there's a protocol, it's just like kind of going, what they call it, Dewey Decimal System or something like that, where you find the specific book about this specific part of your soul's history. And so the more specific you are, the easier it is to find information.
It is, because the first time that I entered, it kept coming into my mind, but like in my subconscious and like the back of my mind. So then that night when I was sleeping, I entered and I was so overwhelmed that I was like, I'm going to come back. Like I remember saying like, I'll come back. And then the next two times I started putting intention into it and started getting more specific. I think my most recent experience with the Akashic Records, I was wanting to know why I have such a hard problem trusting people in relationships. Like I could put my trust into them only for like a certain amount, because then I just always had this feeling like you're gonna screw me over. I just don't know when. And it took me back to one of my lifetimes where I was betrothed to someone. I feel so fancy saying that. I was betrothed. But I was betrothed to someone, and then they decided to choose someone because I was from very humble beginnings. I was a farmer around water, and they decided to go with someone who had more money, even though they had like expressed their undying love for me. They were like, I need to go with someone who has money. And it was very like heart shattering for me. And so that has like stuck with me, and it was causing so many problems in relationships, whether it was like friendships, partnerships for like group assignments in high school. It's like I just could never trust anyone. And then in romantic relationships, of course. And so that was after understanding like, oh, I can actually tap into my own stuff. I started putting that intention in there, did a very, very deep meditation. I had a singing bowl to where I was like, I'm going to play this for a little while, make myself feel nice and settled down. Was able to find that out. And then as soon as I had kind of came back, I played my singing bowl again. and I had this jar of affirmations, and like each affirmation that I was pulling out was, I am of love, I trust, I have a great partner, I trust information that has been given to me. So it was just like literally affirmations of like, yes, you needed to learn this, and then gave myself a limpia with Palo Santo, and then I have like a little wand with an owl feather where I started sweeping myself, and I was like, okay, it's like I've learned this, and now I know like, oh, this is just something I need to work and process through, rather than thinking that everyone's going to screw me over sooner or later.
Right.
Yeah. So if you're reading Akashic Records for someone else, like if you were in a session with someone, do you pull from cards, or do you sit there and kind of go into a trance-like state and you can visually see in your first eye?
So how I learned, we use a specific prayer to open the records. And so say if you gave me permission to open your records, I would put your name into the prayer, and repeating that prayer 3 times, and that acts as a key to your area of the records. And in that, I become a channel for whatever information wants to come through from your masters, teachers, loved ones, your record keepers. And the sessions are more or less guided by your questions, and the more specific you are, the more specific the answers. Though, being also a psychic and a medium, and sometimes things will come to me psychically. But yeah, so not necessarily trance state, because it is very much a conscious conversation, and I am present, but also allowing myself for that information to just pour through. Yeah.
So when I first started learning channeling, my teacher was always telling me to imagine myself as like a hollow bone, so that way information can just travel like purely through.
It's funny you say that word. Someone that I met at a sweat lodge, and works with the Lakota tradition. How they might give someone a name, like stands with 2 fists or whatever it is. He calls me hollow bone.
Yeah, I've come to, or at least for me, I feel like whenever I channel, I usually like to imagine myself as a plant or a tree. And I think it depends on like what it is that I'm doing. So usually if I'm outside and I'm doing like a land acknowledgement ceremony, I usually visualize myself as a tree. Yeah. And then whenever I do my intuitive card readings, I usually visualize myself as a flower. Where it's like I'm kind of opening myself up to the sun the first part of the day, and I'm just like letting in everything that needs to flow, and it'll like ground where it needs to ground. But so I guess, do you visualize yourself as a hollow bone, or do you have like another visualization when you're channeling?
No, not necessarily a visualization. I just set an intention that asking God, Spirit, Source, to make me the best consultant that I can be, to bring with clarity and accuracy anything that the person needs to know at this time. So just like, whatever sounds or words come out of my mouth are the sounds that need to be heard, setting the intention that, I get out of the way. Tina goes over there and, organizes my horribly messy closet, and I'm able to just be present and be open to the information, as opposed to my mind getting in the way.
If someone was wanting to work with you, where would they be able to find you, like social media wise?
Social media, I am Tina Rodriguez on Facebook, the Tina Rodriguez on Instagram, and on the Tina Rodriguez, the Instagram, my website is also in my bio, which is Manos de Oro. So MANOSDEORO.org. So Manos de Oro, hands of gold. Since I'm still a massage therapist, though not during this time of quarantine, definitely something that my mother told me when I was little, telling me that I had hands of gold, and so that just kind of stuck. So manosdeoro.org is my website, and it gives a greater description about me and my beginnings, and the different modalities that I practice, and contact me there.
And I will put all of your social media contact information in the description box below. Yeah, so I guess just a few questions, because we're going to kind of wrap this up. feel like we've gotten to know each other so much
Oh, well.
well, more than we already did.
Right?
If you could be something other than yourself, so like let's say you could be a plant, you could be an element, you can be an animal, what would you be? What is your soul outside of its human body? What form would it take?
Hmm. Well, when you first asked the question, the first thing that came to mind was a whale.
I do see that.
Yeah.
I do.
So I could just swim all the time. Yeah, I just saw myself as a whale being in the ocean.
What would your name be?
My name?
Would it still be Tina, or would it?
Oh. I'm not sure.
Just food for thought. Maybe something.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. No, the first thing that came to mind too was that it doesn't have like translatable word or quality. It's like humpback whales moan.
I love whales. I love humpback whales. Yeah, I do see you though as a whale, just because I feel like every time I do run into you, like in public, you're usually out in water or by water. And then it also just kind of often do feel like I'm kind of always around water, during your sound healings, because it can kind of feel like, whenever you hear underneath water, the vibrations, it often feels like that. Just like you can hear the like vibrations through the water in your body, but it's not overwhelming. As more so, it's very comforting, like you're in a very gentle body of water.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. For those that don't know, you can also view Tina's sound healing sessions live from her Facebook. I know she just posted one for Earth Day, and I think that you can actually still find it. I save all of your videos, so I'll probably put the link to that as well. It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking your time and
thank you for having
chatting
me.
with me. Yeah, absolutely. You were one of the first people I was like, Tina!
Yay! No, that's so wonderful. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you again and giving you a hug when permitted.
I know. Yeah, what a joy. And yeah, and just seeing your face in person.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, my shop's opening back up, and but I can hand you your Tina Baloo.
Oh, yay!
All right. Well, thank you,
Awesome.
Tina. I hope you have a lovely day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, blessings.
So if you want to get in touch with Tina, I do have her Facebook, website, and Instagram all linked in the description box below, as well as the links to her sound healing teacher and her Akashic Records reading teacher, if that is something that is calling to you and you're looking forward to. If you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. Let me know in the comment section below what you would want to see, going furthermore into insightful interviews, what you thought about this one. I'm so glad that you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.